Hey team, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and today we're having another little looky at Sully and one of her first backing sessions that we did together while she's still getting used to, me hopping on and taking her for a little walk around. One of the most common questions that, we see is how do I make my horse XYZ? How do I make my horse stand up to be mounted? How do I make my horse get on a float? How do I make my horse stop? How do I make my horse rein back? And so I'm just going to give you a little secret. Secret to horses is that you can't make them do anything. So really what you're doing here when you're asking how do you make your horse do this, that, or the other is you're asking the wrong question, which is understandable because there's something in particular that you're trying to get your horse to do and you're trying to figure out how to make them do it so you can do that thing together. When you approach a problem with the wrong question, however, you get answers that aren't particularly helpful to you. So you'll see a lot of trainers and instructors and breakers, if you ask them the question, how do I make my horse XYZ, they're going to give you answers that spook and threaten the horses into giving the response that you want. And so we end up with a lot of beginner to intermediate riders learning how to spook and threaten and scare their horse into doing what they want them to do. And then we have a lot of scared horses that don't have good emotional agility or self-regulation. And so when this happens, what you're really missing is that you can't make your horse do anything. And by the time you can make your horse, do these things, you don't want to anymore because you know how volatile and scared a horse that's being made to do something it doesn't want to do can get. Not to mention, you no longer want to be that person that's having to work that way with the horses to spook, scare, and threaten them into the things that you want them to do. So the question is not how do you make your horse do something? The question is why would this horse do this for me? So when we consider backing the horses for the first time, there isn't necessarily a particularly good reason for them to want us to sit on their back, but there's also not a particularly negative reason for them to not want us on their back unless, we've done some really high pressure groundwork strategies to force submission in the pre-work and the lead up to this point. But we've done a lot of relaxation work. We're making experiences and choices to develop compassionate leadership, trust and confidence, relaxation, emotional agility. She understands the cueing and the language. She knows how to answer all the words, which is the bit pressure, the leg pressure, all of those kinds of things. So mostly we don't have to buck them out because this is a really positive experience where they know what's expected of them and they know how to answer the questions. However, she's still carrying 80 kilos. so you're never going to have a horse say, yes, hop on me. I would love to carry you. You have to kind of think about how you can, make it something that they would want. So there's a few different strategies that we've implemented as we've implemented our holistic horse handling skills with developing, why she would have trust and confidence in me, especially when I only see her once a week. And we weren't able to be particularly consistent last year because of how much it was raining. The adjustment place that she's kept at is really bad. When it rains, it just gets too muddy to do anything. And slippery, so it's unsafe for her. So why would she want me on her back? And so we spent a lot of time doing our in-hand adventures, matching steps, all of those connection exercises that we have in our compassionate leadership skills so that, I was somebody to her that she wanted to take direction from. If I just hopped on her back and there was no relationship or rapport or investment in me, then as soon as she felt uncomfortable or she didn't want to do it anymore, she could just buck me off and, she could just say, "See you later, alligator. I don't want to do this anymore." So I've invested, time and effort in her into why she would want to carry me. And then we also have a horse that's itchy. So connection work with her is quite easy because she really loves a good scratch. So anytime in the saddle I feel some tension building or, she starts to get the wobbles and she's starting to, fatigue from carrying, because that's also what we're doing in these initial stages is we're building their weight-bearing capabilities. So we're going to give her some scratches and help her release that tension building. So the tension can come from a couple of different places. Tension can come from, the environment, if there's something in her environment that she's going to spook at. The tension can come from weight bearing, from carrying me. The tension can come from, the bit in her mouth and trying to figure out how to follow the cues from the bit without losing her balance. And particularly in these early stages, you're going to have a lot of difficulty with her following the bit pressure and that kind of thing. But this transfers through to, all of your training is, how can you best support your horse to make the thing that you want to do with them easy? How can you make it something that they would choose? Why would they want to do it for you? And then the answer completely changes because the question changes. If you're not trying to make your horse do something, then you're not having to resort to spooking and threatening them to get that behavior. So what you get to do instead is you get to work with the horse and find a mutual agreement where you're working together as a team, and then your horse enjoys learning, they ask to be ridden, they actively look after you, and it becomes a pleasure to work with the horses instead of super frustrating and disappointing. That's it from me for today. Until next time, happy trails.